$750,000. For the Metro Vancouver buyer in 2026, that is the number that opens up real choice for the first time. You're not stretching for a starter studio anymore. You're not capped at a single corridor anymore. At $750,000, you can buy in two very different cities that sit 15 kilometers apart and look like they belong on different planets. Burnaby, the dense, transit-heavy urban city that pretends it's part of Vancouver. Coquitlam, the suburban park-heavy family-first city that pretends it's its own country. Same money, two completely different versions of your next 10 years. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what $750,000 buys you in each one in 2026. The neighborhoods, the square footage, the trade-offs nobody tells you about, and the decision framework I use with every buyer who walks in at this price point. My name is Dan J. Reilly. I'm a realtor with eXp Realty. I work with buyers across Metro Vancouver every single week. The Burnaby versus Coquitlam decision is one of the most common conversations I have at the $750,000 mark. If you're holding a pre-approval around this number and you're trying to decide between both of these two cities, this video was built for you. Quick note before we dive in, every number I quote in this video comes from the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, March 2026 benchmark data. No guesses, no spin, just the data. Let's set the baseline. The Greater Vancouver apartment benchmark sits in the high 700s across the entire board. So at $750,000, you're sitting right around the benchmark in both Burnaby and Coquitlam. You're not a normal buyer, you're not a stretch buyer, not a bottom of the market buyer, which means you have selection. That means you have negotiation room and you have a lot of choice. But the choice in Burnaby and the choice in Coquitlam are two very different choices. Let me break them down. Let's start with Burnaby. At $750,000 in Burnaby, you are firmly in the new construction condo market in three of the city's biggest growth corridors. Brentwood is the first one. $750,000 in Brentwood gets you a 1-bedroom plus den or an entry-level 2-bedroom in a newer high-rise tower. 600 to 750 square feet, direct SkyTrain access, walking distance to Brentwood Town Center, the largest retail anchor in the corridor. Building amenities are heavy: gyms, co-working lounges, outdoor spaces, pool in some buildings, and strata fees that can reflect that. Metrotown is the second one. $750,000 in Metrotown gets you similar product, 1-bedroom plus den, or an entry-level 2-bedroom in a newer building. Slightly older stock for the same dollar than Brentwood. You're at the center of Metropolis and Metrotown, the largest shopping center in British Columbia. You're on the Expo line, and you're connected to anywhere in Metro Van within 40 minutes. Lougheed is the third one. $750,000 in Lougheed gets you newer high-rise stock too, but with the advantage of being on the intersection of two SkyTrain lines. Lougheed is still earlier in its redevelopment cycle than Brentwood and Metrotown, which means it is a forward bet, and older Burnaby pockets like Edmonds, Burnaby Heights, and parts of South Slope at $750,000 get you into older 2-bedroom condo stock from the 1990s and 2000s. Larger square footage than the newer towers, but with capital expense risk. Townhouses in Burnaby at $750,000 are extremely rare. The Burnaby attached benchmark sits well above that number in 2026. Detached homes, unfortunately, not a conversation. The Burnaby detached benchmark is well above $2 million. In Burnaby at $750,000, you're buying urban density, premium transit access, and brand new construction with the carrying costs that come with it. Now let's move on to Coquitlam. At $750,000 in Coquitlam, the math starts to open up. Coquitlam Center is the first pocket. $750,000 at Coquitlam Center gets you a brand new 2-bedroom condo at 850 to 950 square feet. Yep, you read that right. For the same dollar that buys a smaller 1-bedroom plus a den in Burnaby Brentwood, you can buy a full 2-bedroom in Coquitlam Center. You're walking distance from the SkyTrain at Lincoln Station, Coquitlam Central, or Lafarge Lake Douglas, 3 stations to choose from in a 1.5 kilometer radius. West Coquitlam is the second pocket. $750,000 in West Coquitlam near Burquitlam Station gets you a 1-bedroom plus den or a smaller 2-bedroom in newer high-rise stock. You're one stop from Lougheed Burnaby on the same SkyTrain line. Westwood Plateau is the third pocket. This is where the math really gets different from Burnaby. In Westwood Plateau, $750,000 puts you into entry-level townhouses in older complexes. You're talking about a 3-bedroom townhouse with a garage, 1,500 square feet of living space, and usually a small yard. And it is a very family-oriented neighborhood with strong school catchments. That product does not exist in Burnaby at this price point. Burke Mountain is the fourth pocket. Burke Mountain is one of the newest growth areas in Metro Van. $750,000 on Burke Mountain gets you an entry-level townhouse in newer construction or a larger 2-bedroom condo. Burke Mountain is further from the SkyTrain. The trade is space and newness for transit access. A lot of the time, $750,000 in that price point can get you to older townhouses with deferred maintenance, and the risk profile is meaningfully different. Document review becomes very critical in these areas. So in Coquitlam at $750,000, you are buying space, family-oriented amenities, strong school catchments, and a more measured pace of development. So the headline is this: in Burnaby at $750,000, you buy urban density and premium transit, smaller, newer, more connected. In Coquitlam at $750,000, you buy space and family infrastructure, larger, greener, more residential, the same money, two completely different lifestyles. Now, here's where most buyers get the decision wrong. They pick the city based on what they like today. They should pick the city based on where their life is going to hit in the next 7 years. Let me walk you through the 4 factors that actually matter. Factor 1 is the commute. Both Burnaby and Coquitlam are extremely well served by the SkyTrain. Burnaby has more stations, more lines, and more frequency. From Brentwood station to waterfront downtown is about 25 minutes on the Millennium line and the Expo line. From Metrotown station to waterfront is about 20 minutes on the Expo line. From Coquitlam Central to waterfront is about 45 minutes on the Millennium line with 1 transfer. And if your job is downtown Vancouver and you're commuting 5 days a week, Burnaby wins on raw transit time. If your job is in Coquitlam, the Tri-Cities, or you work hybrid, that gap narrows pretty fast. Factor 2, schools and family planning. Coquitlam is in School District 43. District 43 is widely regarded as one of the strongest public school districts in Metro Vancouver. Strong outcomes, strong specialty programs, smaller class sizes than larger districts. Burnaby is in School District 41. 41 is also strong with deep diversity, solid academic performance, and a wider range of program options because of the larger population base. So if you're family planning in the next 7 years, this matters. If you're not, it matters a little bit less. The buyer who picks Burnaby for the SkyTrain, that has kids and tries to navigate the school catchment game in a high density tower neighborhood, that is often the same buyer who lists in 5 years and moves to Coquitlam. Factor 3 is future development pressure. Burnaby is at the leading edge of densification in Metro Vancouver. Brentwood, Metrotown, and Lougheed all have massive development pipelines. Tens of thousands of new units are completing or under construction in Burnaby over the next 5 years. However, that can be a double-edged sword. The upside is that you're buying into a city that is investing in itself, transit, retail, restaurants, amenities, all expanding. And the downside is you're competing with the wave of new construction every time you go to sell. Coquitlam has a measured development pipeline. Pace is slower. The character of each neighborhood is more stable. And if you're buying for stability and slower change, Coquitlam does win. If you're buying for transit-oriented appreciation and willing to ride out the supply waves, Burnaby wins. Factor 4, the upgrade path. This is the factor most buyers ignore. When you outgrow your starter at $750,000 and need to upgrade to a townhouse or a detached, what does the city look like for that next move? In Burnaby, the upgrade path is steep. The detached benchmark is over $2 million, and even townhouses at the next tier sit well above the $750,000 mark. In Coquitlam, the upgrade path is more achievable. Townhouses in Burke Mountain, Westwood Plateau, and other family-friendly pockets sit at price points that a typical Metro Vancouver household with 2 incomes can reach in 5 to 7 years. For the buyer who plans to stay in their starter home long term, this factor matters less. For the buyer who plans to upgrade, Coquitlam keeps the runway longer. First-time buyer programs can stretch your $750,000 further than you think. BC's property transfer tax exemption applies to first-time home buyers on qualifying properties up to a threshold. Always double-check the current number because guidelines do change. The newly built home exemption removes property transfer tax entirely on qualifying new construction up to a price ceiling as well. New Burnaby Brentwood units and new Coquitlam Center units may qualify here. The first home savings account, also called the FHSA, lets you stack tax-free savings that combine with RRSP home buyers plan money. A first-time buyer using both can often close with $10,000 to $15,000 less out of pocket. Always confirm rebate eligibility with your lawyer or accountant before you sign anything. So the verdict, $750,000 in Burnaby gets you into one of the most transit-rich, urban, fast-changing pockets of Metro Vancouver. A smaller home, newer building, a faster commute, and $750,000 in Coquitlam gets you space, schools, parks, and a smoother upgrade path. Larger home, older or family-oriented building, slower paced city. Neither is the wrong answer. The right answer depends on your commute, your career stage, your family timeline, and whether you want urban density or family infrastructure. If you want me to run the actual math in your specific $750,000 scenario, including which neighborhoods, buildings, and which first-time programs you could qualify for, I build a full report for every client before we step into any showings. Comment the word guide below and I'll send you my Metro Vancouver guide. It'll have have every single pocket I recommend at that $750,000 mark. Burnaby, Coquitlam, the whole Tri-Cities corridor, layouts, strata fees, building eras, resale data, commute times, all for free. And secondly, if you want a one-on-one sit down to build your personal buying plan, links in the description to book a 15-minute call. No pressure, we can map out your numbers together. And if this video helped you, hit subscribe. I post real Metro Vancouver market content twice a week. Again, my name's Dan, and I'll see you in the next one.